on. This module and recording is about board development and how to get the right people on the bus. So let's just go ahead and get started. First, I'll give you a little bit of an overview. Who or what is Be More LLC? Be More LLC is a organizational development agency. We work primarily with new and emerging nonprofits, servant leaders. We hope to take people from concept to creation and walk them through the process of developing their nonprofit, again, from the ground up the right way, so that people won't have their grand opening and grand closing in the same year. A little bit about me specifically. I always love to tell people I'm my grandmother's baby. Bertha Mae's grandbaby, if I am no one else. And I always put that out there because I believe she was my first example of what nonprofit service looked like. She was my first example of what servant leadership was. Now, she didn't have the official 501c3 status that organizations have, but she knew how to serve, she knew how to organize, she knew how to help, she knew how to have compassion and serve people in a real deep and meaningful way. And I think a lot of us are like that. I think a lot of us are like my grandmother, where we want to serve in a really deep and meaningful way. And maybe we just don't have all the tools and resources that we need to help us to get there through that process. And so that's what that is kind of the inspiration for creating something like Be More LLC. I have over 10 years in nonprofit development training, both international as well as domestically. My international work was when I worked for the U.S. Department of State in their grants division, and then in two different bureaus dealing with grants and dealing with different types of nonprofit international programs. I have a certification in nonprofit leadership and a master's degree in nonprofit development, and I am currently working on my doctorate degree in social work. So that's a little bit of an overview about me and really just kind of who I am. So I always like to also start these recordings with this basically so that you can know your role in this process. What I bring, I know what I bring. I shared a little bit about who I am, what my background is, and what my motivations are. But you have to know what your role in this whole process, in the nonprofit development process, as well as in the learning process, and even listening to a recording of this nature. Please know that no one has more control over your success than you. Whether a person says they are a coach or a consultant or a guru or a trainer, no matter what, nothing is more important. What they tell you is not more going to be more important than what you tell you. You know, that internal talk. It's also not going to be more important than whatever actions you do or don't take. So think about that and consider that in this process. Also, remember, know, understand that when you don't invest in yourself, you get exactly what you pay for. And ask yourself, if you are expecting $1 million results with a minimum wage work ethic, right? Are you expecting people to donate, contribute, or fund your nonprofit vision without you putting any skin in the game? And I put a little band-aid on that picture because I know that this might hurt a little because it's very real and it's very true, and it's something that I want to make sure that people actually get and understand and know what your role is. So as much as you expect from whatever your teacher or coach or trainer is, make sure that you are expecting even more from yourself, because this is not going to happen without you investing that time, investing that energy, investing the resources, investing all of the money that it's going to take to actually even make this come to fruition. So just remember that no matter what coach, trainer, or teacher you're speaking with, no one has more control over your success than you do. And it's going to be really important that you do the work. Now, another thing that I want to cover as well is, who is this stuff designed for? See if you're in the right place. Are you listening to the right video? Does this even make sense to you? This is for people who actually want to make a living at making a difference. That whole making a difference component is something that's really important to you. If that is something that's important to you, then this is for you. This is also people who are new and emerging nonprofit professionals that just kind of really need the support and really kind of jump starting their vision. They have an idea, they have somewhat of a concept, but they need some kind of support around jump starting it. It's also for people who want to start a nonprofit, but they have absolutely no idea where to start. I have this drive, I have this vision, and I just don't know where to go first. And it's also for people who are tired of the state of their community and they're really ready to do something about it. So if all or any or most of those fit you, then this is designed especially for you. Tips on how to make the best of our time together before I get into what I'm about to share. Make sure that you're actually mentally and physically prepared for the information. I know sometimes, especially when it's something that's online, you might be listening and doing other things. I know sometimes I actually watch movies, not really watch them all the way physically with my eyes, but I might work on something and something else will be playing in the background. Or I'm doing this and I'm doing this other thing. So that's not really being completely mentally present to a thing. If you're really learning something and it's something that you don't really have a clear grasp on, especially if you're investing your time and your energy into that, for a moment. Is that right? No. Okay, so we're back. All right. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we're back anyway. Make sure that you take notes as you're watching this. If you're watching a replay, make sure that you take notes. Write down things to look up, even if it's something that struck an idea in mind. Let's not just be people who just come and we're just listening and it just goes in one ear and out the other. Let's actually take notes and write it down so that we can actually engage with what we're learning and make sure that we're not being passive learners. Also, fully engage in the process. Take advantage of the fact that you can actually ask me questions. You can actually connect with me, whether it's through Facebook at Be More LLC is the name of the page. Twitter is the and at handle BEMORE LLC, or visit www.bemorellc.com and schedule a 15-minute consult. Take advantage of the fact that you have a person that you can ask questions of, and get even more information on. So now we're going to go ahead and get into discussing and sharing information on board development. So the three most common mistakes that people make when they're developing a board, one is they don't actually get clarity on the function of a board. Some of them or some of us really, just know, I know if I'm developing a nonprofit organization, I know I need a board. They don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of what that looks like, what that really means, what their functions are, what the roles and responsibilities of a board are. And that's something that's very important to get clarity on, because as you're recruiting people, you're going to need to also inform them of why should they be a board member? What is it that you want them to do? And you want to kind of manage expectation of what that relationship and what that role is going to be like. So sometimes people don't have clarity on what that is, and then they get a set of people and it's not working out. And they could get fantastic people and it not work out. But if you don't have the clarity on exactly what a board does, then that could be problematic. Another of the biggest mistake that people make in board development is they just make up a board that consists of their family and friends. So this person may not necessarily have a subject matter expertise in this particular direction, or they may be really excited about helping you out because you're their BFF, but they don't really know what it takes to be on a board. Or sometimes people just need butts and seats, and family and friends are the closest nearby that they can grab and put on their board. And that usually ends up being a little bit of a mess. And we're going to get into some of the 4 phases that nonprofit boards go through and try to help you to skip steps 1 through 3 and really just kind of get to the 4th phase of board development. And number 3, they don't hold. Okay, so I guess we're back now. So those are the 3 biggest mistakes that people people make when developing their board. What is the objective of this particular video course? So for this one, it is for you to know the function of the board, for you to know so that you know the roles and responsibilities of a board, so that you can know how to identify and then recruit the right people for your specific board. Also, you're going to know by the end of this what should you include in your recruitment material, what things should be discussed in your board meetings, which is very important. So let's get right into it. The function of the board. The primary function of a board is the governance and oversight. Now, this involves more than just attending meetings or voting on this or that change. There are ethical responsibilities, ethical functions of board members. And ethical includes the fact that there's going to be some confidentiality, some things that's going to stay within the organization. There's also going to be ethical concerns around conflict of interest. That those are the 2 primary things that come up in terms of boards when it comes to ethics. A person is also going to be an ambassador of the organization. They're kind of going to speak for the organization in other arenas, kind of be representative of the organization, speak on behalf of, and they're also going to support by whether they're making financial contributions directly themselves, as well as recruiting others in their networks to make contributions to the organization. And all of these are really, in general, the function of the board. Now we're going to get a little bit in depth on what exactly does that look like. So the role and responsibility of the board, one, the primary most important thing is they ensure that this mission of the organization, whatever that mission is actually being carried out. They establish and maintain the organizational direction for the purpose of keeping it towards the mission. Now think of the mission as the North Star. And what the board does is kind of recheck the map and just make sure we're on path. Are we still going toward the North Star? How does this programming fit into that? How does this grant fit into that? And you may end up discussing, okay, are we going in a different direction? But none of that should be taken lightly. That is all a process of within the board's purview. Also, assess operations to ensure it is running efficiently. They also are going to share their expertise from whatever various backgrounds they are. Now, the thing that is important to know also is that the CEO is the actual administrator and the implementer of the board policy. The board does not manage the staff within the nonprofit organization. The board also does not manage the day-to-day operations. They are governance and oversight. So they don't manage the day-to-day. They don't interact really with the staff all that much, if at all. It is really the CEO's responsibility to kind of be that bridge between the people who work within the organization and the governing board of the organization. Now, identification and recruitment. How do you identify the right people to be on your board? Well, one of the things is you're going to look into similar organizations and who they have on their board. Now, it's not like just simply like a case of the body snatchers where you, again, there we go, camera's back. You're going to look to those organizations to see who's on those boards, similar types of, not just positions, but type of people on those boards. If you have a youth development organization, you're going to look at other youth development organizations and see who their board members are. It's those specific people again, but what are the position of those particular type of people? Do youth organizations typically have principals on their board? Do they have people from juvenile justice department? Do they have a counselor or a social worker? So those are the things that you're going to look for. Also, to look for who do you want on the board, who are the stakeholders in your community that care about the vision of the organization. So if it's a youth development organization, who are the people who care about that sort of thing within the organization? Another thing you're going to look at when you do identify the right people is board recruitment. And recruitment materials should include an overview of the organization. You should have something in there about your vision, your mission, a bit on your programming so they can know a little bit about what that is, and some board descriptions, right? Accompany with some of those responsibilities. What type of committees are there? What is the frequency and the time that you meet? Now, notice how I put the frequency and the time that you meet as the last thing, because all these things, and I am weighing this in importance, frequency and the time that you meet isn't really as significant as it is that you make sure that this person is in alignment with your organization vision and mission and the programming. That's more important than them being available during the day and the time that you meet. With us having access to online platforms, um, conference calls, and so many other resources, so many other tools, them being there physically, uh, excuse me, is not the most important thing. Or yeah, so I'll leave that at that. Here's some questions to ask. Now, these are some of those questions that we actually kind of want to ask, but we typically don't ask board members. But this is really kind of like the nitty gritty of what you're going to want to know, really. You're going to want to know what amount of time and level of frequency do they consider the financial contribution of a board member meaningful. Basically, what you're asking them is, what do you find meaningful to give? How much is meaningful to you to give? How much time is meaningful for you to give to XYZ cause? That's an important question to ask them, because that'll tell you, where they are, a little bit more about what type of board member they are. If you say something as simple as, what is the financial contribution that you would find meaningful to giving to ending homelessness in Baltimore with Baltimore youth? What is a contribution that you feel comfortable with? One of the reasons that question is particularly important also is sometimes boards have stipulation within some of their bylaws, and they probably get this from some textbooks, because I know I've read the textbooks, but and they'll say give XY% or give this particular amount. What's really important is that you have 100% board contribution, not the amount at which each person gives, but that you have everyone contributing. So that gives the person who is on the board the opportunity to decide how much contribution they feel is meaningful. If I feel $50 is meaningful and manageable for me, then allow me to say that, allow a person to say that, and give consistently at that level. Also, then when it come time for them to contribute, that is something that you are holding them accountable to, something that they said. So it's not a set fee that you're saying you have to give at this amount, because everybody gives at this amount. Everybody has different financial situations and want to give at different levels. Another question that people don't ask but want to ask a lot of time is, what is their network? What is their reach? Who can they get? Who are they 1 to 2 phone calls away from? That's very important. You want your board to have influence, and you want them to be able to leverage that influence for your organization. So if they on the line, or a congressman on the line, or Oprah's cousin on the line, or something like that, that is something that you would want to know, or some other organization that you can have an allegiance with. That is something that you would want to know. These are some things to consider. Also, you may ask a person to provide you an example of a demonstration of service that relates to the organizational mission. If you are joining a youth development organization as a board member and you've never had any history of service to youth organizations, I don't know, that's something that's a little bit I would find it curious. So we would probably have a little bit more of a conversation about that. You want someone who has a proven track record of service towards a specific type of organizational mission to demonstrate. So these are some of the things that you're looking for. These are some of the potential questions to ask some board members. And also, I'm going to let you know what you should have in your new board member packet. You should absolutely include the organization history. What are the roles and responsibility? What is your organization structure? What are the resources that are available within the organization, as well as outside of the organizations? What are the partners and allies of the organization? And you want to have a review of the major activities like programming, as well as your strategic plan. Everyone who is a new board member should have an understanding of not only the organization's history, their roles and responsibility, but they should understand the strategic plan of the organization so that they can understand not just the mission, but also what is our plan for getting there. So as they sit on board meetings and have committees and we have activities, you can have a view back to look back to see, is this within the strategic plan? Is this what we said we were going to do? Are we on route for our trajectory of the organization? Because a large part of their role is steering the direction of the organization. So types of things to discuss in the board meetings. You're going to discuss not just what is the direction of the organization, but are we on the right direction? What is the organization's budget? Did we overspend? Did we underspend? Did we get it on time and under budget? What are some of the upcoming events? What are the fundraising plans? How are we going to generate revenue? If there's going to be any major changes in the organization, whether it relates to the bylaws or anything like that, as well as you're going to discuss what's next. Those are the types of things that you're going to discuss in meetings. Now, I'll let you know, there's typically 4 types of phases that nonprofit boards go through. These aren't official phases. These are just the phases that I've been able to notice. And and this is like growth phases, like first grade, second grade, third grade type of thing. What you really want the organization to do is be at the 4th phase, because all these other phases in between are really large board turnover phases. And board turnover can be a huge drain. It could be, a drain of intellectual resources, of people who have been with the organization, who have certain institutional knowledge. It's just a drain to go through the process of a huge board turnover. So phases of boards. The first board setup of most new and emerging nonprofits is friends, and I typically actually say friends, families, and fools, because you're trying to get butts and seats. You're just trying to get some papers filled out, and you're just grabbing the people that's closest to you, that care about you and love you, and say, yes, I'll be on your board, right? The second one is you just get a set of subject matter experts. Who is the expert in elementary school education? Who is the expert in the core curriculum? Who is the expert in whatever your particular interests are? You just get a bunch of subject matter experts. Then people typically have another turnover, and what they say, okay, our board isn't doing so well, our organization isn't doing so well. Now we need to get people more funders. We need to get people who their network is their network. So where is the money, right? That's what they start looking for in that next phase, because they see all the mistakes in terms of just looking for subject matter experts. The ideal or the best situation to be in is being in a combination of subject matter experts and people who have networks, who their net worth is their net worth. That is the 4th board. That is the 4th phase, and that is the phase that you would like your organization to be at. So, and that actually kind of just wraps up pretty much what this training video is. I will have more information to come available, so just be on the lookout if you'd like to hear more about us. You can always reach me at bemorellc.com to schedule a 15-minute free consultation. You can always find us on Twitter, bemorellc.com, or on Facebook. This replay, you're probably watching the replay. So this, I'm not sure how long I'm going to let the replay be available, but after it's available online, what I may do is end up bundling it or putting it in some sort of package. So, and that's really just all I have today. And I hope that that was helpful for a lot of you. I'm sure this was more than enough and you got everything you needed and you're ready to go. And for some of you, you want to take a deeper walk, you want more information, you want more support. And if you do want more support, if you want someone who's there holding your hand, looking you over the shoulder, and helping you through this process because it is just that serious and just that meaningful. Or some of you just might want somebody to hold you accountable to what it is that you say that you want because you know you have this going on, this going on, this going on, and you can easily get off track. I get that. I'm not going to leave you hanging, I promise. If you just go ahead and visit bemorellc.com and schedule your 15-minute consultation, we could talk about how we can take a deeper walk and connect and enroll in a much longer program where you get hands-on support with the development of your organization. Thank you so much for your time. I do not take your presence here lightly. I don't take you choosing me as part of your journey and for us to cross paths lightly. So thank you. And until next time, continue to do more, serve more, and be more.